So here I am, I'm in front of Aptera Motors and really excited to check out the vehicle. Not the sunniest of days, but should still be exciting to see the progress of this hyper-efficient mobile transportation system. It's such a privilege to be here at the facility in Carlsbad, and I'm with Audra Leslie.
Hello.
And Audra is basically head of sales?
Yeah, customer success manager here, moving into sales position. That's correct.
Awesome. She's going to give us a quick tour and some of the highlights of the vehicle and maybe some updates on production. Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is Seoul, our second Alpha vehicle built in Sorrento Valley at our Alpha development facility. As you can see, what we were talking about earlier, the very aerodynamic, sleek design. Our first engineering design principle is efficiency. So we have wheel covers over the tires, which allow air to fly and past it and nothing gets caught within the wheels. There's in-wheel hub motors that allow us to put the energy directly from the motor to the ground to propel you forward. No transaxles and no engine, obviously, because we are battery and solar powered. So you have solar panels on the hood, the roof, the hatch, and the dash. While this is our Alpha model, kind of definitely get the idea of the shape here and what we're seeking to do, which is reinvent how transportation looks, feels, and behaves, especially when it comes to our impact on the world. Aptera is doing what's never been done before. It's using 100 watt-hours per mile, about a third of the size of a battery pack that Tesla uses. You're going just as far. Not only is that you saving time like to charge, you're also saving money, and you're saving money on any replacements that are needed, because if you can imagine, the third of size of a Tesla battery pack should only cost you around a third of the cost. And considering that the solar panels are trickling down to top off any battery charge, you're kinder to your battery pack, so they should last well over 10 years. And Aptera being so lightweight, you are getting extremely efficient. It's about 350 miles per gallon equivalent, which absolutely blows my mind. I think my first gas car averages about 30 miles per gallon, and that was pretty good. So I think you're getting more than 10 times that with an Aptera. And sometimes you never even have to plug it in. The goal is for the future that charging stations might actually become irrelevant. Obviously, if you're going on long road trips, you might need to plug it in, and there are Tesla superchargers for that all around the United States and the globe. So we're lucky in that sense.
Yeah, it's wonderful you guys were able to secure the Tesla connector network and charging network. So that was a huge win.
It was.
And really incredible. Hi, how are you?
It's Chris.
So, hey, Chris, Josh Cohen, thank you so much. This is such a privilege. I have a YouTube channel on sustainability, and I've been an investor in Aptera, and just absolutely just.
Thanks all the support.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And
Yeah, that'd be great.
okay, thanks, Chris.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Well, that was cool.
And this is a beta, which was used for suspension and stability, durability testing. We're really looking to see if the vehicle is as stable as our computer model says it is. It is unflippable. It is extremely stable, and we took all of the findings from beta and integrated those into our gamma model, which has allowed for an improved suspension, and you have a smooth ride. You can't even tell it's a three-wheeler, honestly, at all, which is kind of funny because the other day, sometimes, you forget that it is three wheels, but it is, and the cargo space is so large you can go camping in it. You have about 35% more room back here than you do in like an average sedan, which is wild because when you look online, a lot of people think it's smaller than it actually is. It's quite large, and so we'll have like a camping package for all of your outdoor adventures.
Oh yes, I have that ordered.
Oh yeah, good. Me too. I joke about like a rite of passage at Aptera is you sleep in the back, which I have done and it's very comfortable. But yeah, beta was a huge milestone for us because this was needed to validate everything we were assuming about its stability, and the suspension has gone through so many improvements. It is a beautifully smooth ride. It's a very quiet ride and almost like a whisper when you drive.
Wow.
This here is our low voltage test bench where we are basically putting together all of the controls, wiring that will be present in the Aptera vehicle that you will receive next year. So things like moving the windows up and down, how the doors will open with the knock sensor, and how everything will talk to each other. We are actually very unique in that we only, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm not really good with all the technical wording of this, but we really only need these 3 wires to speak to all of the different controls, whereas other vehicles are using way more than 3 wires. So keeping things simple for us is key. It also helps when it comes to like right to repair or right to maybe change things or make them how you would like in your own vehicle. Yes, this is basically acting as the vehicle itself. You can't tell, but this is like the side of the P pillar where you would knock and then the door would open. Basically everything that you use in your car that you don't really think about is all happening and being tested here, so that once we're actually ready to start production builds, we can take everything we've learned from this test bench and implement that into our final vehicles.
Amazing. So
Yep.
it's like a deconstructed vehicle without any of the framework, basically.
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
cool.
Controls that we were actually looking at on that low voltage test bench, printed out and in a diagram to show you what does what broken down by each kind of control zone. So for our firmware engineer, JC, put this together for the public and tours, people that come in and kind of see what's happening here, to kind of break it down for you when you don't really, you can look at a wire and you're not really sure what it means, but
Gotcha.
but one
It's
thing,
kind of like,
yeah.
like in medicine, you have like a map of the nervous system. And that's kind
Yes!
of what this is.
I love
'Cause
that
it's like a way
analogy.
for you to kind of see where all the connections are very broadly, and, it's a nice kind of juxtaposition between, this and, the actual physical elements of the electrical connections. So very cool.
Exactly.
Very, very cool. Oh, and just, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Cam. I'm on the solar team here at Aptera. And yeah, we're going to walk through the line and talk about what we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm on a little leash.
you are. Only the finest technology here at Saving Green.
So yeah, I don't know what you guys have talked about already, but this is our kind of our low volume line. It's not all powered up yet, but it's in the correct position to be used. I think the cells kind of begin their life over here on the storage rack, and they would be loaded into what we call the stringer. So this is kind of one of our high volume machines here that automatically connects the cells together into a row. So we would enter the cells into this machine, as well as the interconnects that go in between each cell, and a row will pop out at the end, and eventually a robot will pick that row up and place it into an array, depending on which panel we're making at the time, whether it's a hood, a roof, a hatch. It'll know which array to set it in. These are the kind of the rows of cells. So you can see the interconnects are soldered in between each cell there, and our interconnects are they were designed in-house to be they have some cuts in them to be flexible, so when we laminate on the curved surface, they have some ability to flex and won't like pull the solder joint off. So yeah, I mean, once these are set into an array, such as this roof, then at this point we're still manually adding the outer interconnects, and so those are the what we call the Z bars and the long bars and the termination bars.
Okay.
So those basically you take each row, and now we're going to connect it into a string. So a roof, let's say, has 2 separate strings of about 30 cells, give or take a few cells each. And so that's basically one long kind of snake of cells that's all electrically interconnected. And so once we have all the rows laid out, we can solder all the edge ones on. Whoops, I just broke that cell. So you can kind of see, like,
They're quite delicate.
yeah, you can see how delicate they are. They will
you know,
crack.
I guess the damage rate, or with every successful cell, or every 100.
Oh, like the
successful
scrap
cells,
rate?
Yeah. What's the scrap rate?
I don't know that I have that number off the top of my head, but you know, we try to be
I
as.
imagine it'd be higher than your typical, roof solar panel.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the more we automate it, the scrap rate will go down.
Sure.
As we get away from humans moving these things around.
Exactly.
But this is kind of an example of one of the cells, and you know, we let people kind of like bend them, and you can see how they're pretty flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we try to get it in 2 axes of curvature. It's kind of hard to show with my hands,
Yeah.
but
No, I
but yeah, so they can kind of
around
bend.
the edges and curves.
Exactly, yeah.
How much of the solar flexibility considerations went into the design of the roof and the slope of the body? Or was the efficiency of the body the prevailing design language feature, and then you kind of made the solar cells to adapt to that?
Exactly, yeah. I think the design of the vehicle was first, and solar kind of came second.
Mm-hmm.
We're not creating these cells, so we get these from Maxion. So they're the ones that make these cells, and I think right now they're about 24% efficient, but they're working on a next generation cell that we're in talks with them that we would probably get for high volume.
Wow.
So that
is pretty high.
yeah,
Really
pretty high. I mean, yeah, relative to what's out there today. But I think the Gen 7 I think is what we would get for high volume, and that's even higher. But I'm not sure the actual number on
And
that.
do each of the roof solar or the glass solar arrays, do they each have their own little microinverter, or how does that work in terms of converting each of those cells and sending it to the battery, and working with the input from the battery as well, because you're dealing with different currents, and
Yeah.
it must be pretty complicated.
Yeah, so in between all the panels and the battery is what's called the solar charge controller.
Okay.
And so that's going to take all the input from, I think we have 7 strings. There's 3 on the hatch, 2 on the roof, 1 on the hood, and 1 on the IP. So how many is that?
Yeah,
7. So that's going to take all those inputs and do the DC to, it's actually DC to DC, so there's not really a conversion that needs to happen.
Oh, okay.
It's more of a boost in voltage.
Gotcha.
So it's going to come in at around 7 to 12 volts, but it needs to be boosted up to 400 volts to charge the battery.
Okay.
So that's what the charge controller is going to do. And that has what's called MPPT technology. I am blanking on.
Max PowerPoint.
Yes, Max PowerPoint Tracking. That's what that stands for, and that's basically it's an algorithm that's always looking for, the highest energy output of the panels, and will lock in at that point, and then charge the battery. But it does take energy to run that algorithm, so there needs to be enough sunlight for the charge controller to actually turn on. And actually charge the battery from solar. So otherwise you're actually going to be draining the battery running that algorithm to,
That makes sense.
if there's not
so
enough
in a
sun.
day like today, where it's cloudy and overcast and there's just not enough.
I mean, today I think there still would be enough.
Okay.
But over the course of 10, 15 minutes, it'd probably start juicing it up.
Yeah. I think
how
it's
quickly does it kind of check? You know, like is it a continuous monitoring, or is it every few minutes it kind of will say, oh, how much, you know, wattage are we getting exposed to right now? And then it's like, okay, let's go ahead and activate this process to get the battery charged.
I think it's on like a pretty small scale, like milliseconds or seconds. It's always checking. I'm not the electrical engineer that built that controller, but it does it pretty frequently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very neat.
That was a huge milestone for us too, when the charge from the solar panels actually was trickling down and topping off the high voltage battery pack. It's not an easy thing to do, so it was a really big day for Aptera. Of course, like you'd think with our alpha vehicles, like we have solar panels on them, like it's just the technology wasn't there as it is in Gamma, so it's really exciting for us.
People love to see this one. It's the EL station, Electroluminescence station. So this is kind of how we test the cells to see if there's any defects in them.
Okay.
So right now I just have a already laminated hood in here, and you just connect it electrically on the back here. And a fun fact about solar panels is if you power them in reverse, they act as like an LED in the near infrared spectrum. So you need a special camera to view it, which we have inside there. And if you come over here, I can show you. Yeah, so basically, we would power the panel with this power supply here, and then the camera is going to. Well, anyways, it would look something like this.
Oh, I see.
This isn't a live view, but this is kind of what it would look like. And if you take a picture, you can get a little more better resolution. But you can kind of see like these cracks right here. This is actually a short in the cell. This line right there.
Mm-hmm.
This you can kind of is a crack. So someone like when they soldered this, whether the machine or a human did that, it pressed too hard on the solder joint there and cracked it. So these are just like things that we can see, pre-lamination and then post-lamination. So if we put the array in here right before lamination, we can go back and fix things, and then laminate it, and then afterwards we'll just double check to see that everything went good during lamination. So here you can kind of see like this cell is completely out, not connected. These are probably just defective cells that have these kind of blacked out portions of them.
Gotcha.
So honestly, in this instance, we would probably take that entire row out and replace it. That's kind of a cool way to test the panels and make sure we're getting them as efficient as possible. So yeah, basically after we do that, we would laminate. This is our giant laminator. Right now, this can make the hoods and the roofs. We're trying to fiddle with the hatch design so that it could also fit in this laminator, but to be determined. This is kind of an example of a roof that's been laminated.
So you really can't visualize the individual cells so much. Yeah, because look like on some of the earlier renders, you would see those diamonds.
Yeah, I think right now we're focusing on black panels, so you wouldn't be able to see the cells in that case, but we can make the panels whatever color we want, and so we can make them clear, we can make them white, we have some
fun rainbow.
Yeah, we've done some like
some
screen
fun
printed
panels.
ones that are different colors. Yeah. So if you wrapped your Aptera in whatever color, we could do that with the panels too. Yeah.
What's been the most popular wrap color? Is it that kind of silver launch edition or black?
Well, I think for the launch edition, it's only one color.
It's only one color, but
and because of that, it is the most popular right now because everyone wants whatever's coming first. Well, most people do. I think before that, it might have been actually white. Okay. White and silver were pretty neck and neck.
Yeah.
I know you were black.
So yeah, there's one more thing down here we can talk about. So this is what we call the solar sun simulator. This basically simulates the power of the sun. So there's a giant light bulb in here that we can, place a panel up here and connect it electrically, and then this giant light bulb over here will flash in the same intensity as the sun, and that will give us a power output of the panel. So we can have like a theoretical max power output of a panel, but then things like curvature of the materials that we're using will kind of lower that number.
Sure.
And so this will kind of give us what the actual power output is. Pretty complicated set of numbers and graphs, but the main number we're looking for right here is just the wattage. So this particular test, produced a 67 watt panel. So then we can know what we're putting on the vehicles and how many watts, a driver can expect.
I do know the hatch is like roughly 18 miles of the 40.
Yeah,
whatever.
The hatch is basically half.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. So some people want to opt for the glass, but I'm like, no, but it's like half of your solar mileage, so don't.
Yeah.
Which is why we're launching with the full solar configuration.
Yeah. So 700 watts is like the theoretical max of the vehicle.
What's the status on the camera systems, in terms of getting a full glass? Because I know that there were concerns about not having visibility and being reliant solely on, a rear view camera system. Are there any changes in the regulation, or is that going to?
Oh, in terms of the side view mirrors?
In terms of side view mirrors, yeah.
I think right now we're still required to have them.
We're required to have 2 small motorcycle size side rear view mirrors. Side view mirrors, but the rear view will be completely digital. We're doubling down on the cameras. There are a couple cameras in the rear in case anything happens. And then for the side view mirrors, it could be we get the detachable types, but we'll know that closer to production. There are those that are out there. Definitely a supplier question, so we'll see what happens.
And then there's one last step, I think. Once we're done with the lamination and everything looks good on the testing side of things, we'll put the junction box on.
Okay.
So that's what this station over here is. It just covers the termination point, and then you'd add your connector, and then this is what gets connected to the vehicle once you attach it. So that's kind of the full cycle of things.
I know the batteries aren't made here.
Not yet.
Not yet. And most of the body moldings are done in Italy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the general, life cycle of the model that, from ordering process to delivery?
So we'll receive the majority of the body from Italy, and that'll come in one piece, I think. And then here we would attach, I don't know if they're doing the motors and the wheels and all that, the chassis and suspension, if that's here.
Yeah.
And because we are getting the motors from Europe as well, so it might make sense to just pop those on in Italy instead of over here. But over here we would attach the battery pack and the solar panels. Anything else? HVAC,
suspension, probably. Thermal.
Yeah, pretty much everything else.
Everything else, yeah.
We're still playing around with the kind of setup of this space to include solar, battery, and then final assembly. So this might not be the final location for the solar line, but for now.
How big is this particular footprint?
What is it, 100,000 square feet or
It's
something?
about 80.
80?
Here, yeah.
80, yeah.
It's amazing how you can do all this in space.
It
I mean,
is.
it looks huge, but it's also this is a car manufacturing facility. I imagine it being, city blocks.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
definitely. And soon enough, we'll have the automated, guided vehicles that are basically
the little robots.
Yeah, moving
Mm-hmm.
the frame, the body on frame from station to station as things get built into it, and that will go around the perimeter, which is a good use of space, and parts will be coming in from these side garage doors. So next time you're here, it might look very different. It's crazy how things change here, actually. I think our community knows too, because they look through the windows, which is kind of hilarious. But it's also great. I come here on the weekends sometimes, and there are people that are showing up or biking around or looking through the windows, and you can always chat with the community here at the facility, which is really cool.
How long have you both been with the company?
A little over a year for me,
Okay.
and Audra longer, I think.
Yeah, I'll be 2 years in August 2nd.
Nice. And where were you coming from before Aptera?
I worked for a transportation engineering consulting firm.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I worked on a lot of connected and autonomous vehicle projects, but in the public sector, so a little bit slower. So I wanted something a little more exciting and fast-paced.
Gotcha. What are the prospects for autonomous driving for Aptera?
I'm not quite sure on that one. I think we may have the ability to add some aftermarket systems in the near future, but beyond that, I don't have.
What about kind of, I guess you could say your standard, lane assist and adaptive cruise control, things like that. Would drivers expecting those types of features?
I think so.
Yeah, they can expect those for sure. We think, we're the future, we're forward moving, so
Sure.
some things we can't say no to, and we're gonna we have solutions for, and like full self-driving is something later down the line. Hopefully we can actually create our own technology once we're selling vehicles and we're in production, but right now, we're gonna use like a third party's solution so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel at this point in time, but you can expect lane assist and cruise control in your vehicle. If they're in like the first 1,000 vehicles, like sometimes that's the question. Is it like for the first 2-3 months, will it be included? Like we can't say 100%, but we think like eventually like you'll see it in all vehicles.
Are there going to be different model designations based on the manufacturing date, or is it just going to be kind of like, oh, you're ordering this type of Aptera in this color with this battery type, the way the ordering is now, and then when you get your delivery, you get your delivery? Or will it eventually be like, oh, there's different model year equivalents where certain features might be added down the road, and there might be designations reflecting that? Do you have any idea how that might play out? Thinking, 5-10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I know what the company's goals are on that, but I would think that there would be iterations of the vehicle and kind of different versions or additions or whatever you want to call it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
As we go through the process and figure out how to add different features and things like that.
Yeah. And in terms of reinventing the wheel when it comes to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, do you know if that, I know there's grumblings on the forums that it is kind of interest for the company to integrate that so you don't have to develop those systems in-house, but do you know the progress on that?
I actually do. We are in contact with both Apple and Google on those items, and so they should be included.
I imagine all the R&D developed into the solar development specifically would be of interest to a lot of other car manufacturers or even other industries.
Yeah.
What sort of licensing or IP, do you know anything about that in terms of ways for Aptera to kind of build, a war chest of revenue by licensing some of those products out to other companies?
Yeah, I think we've explored that that side of the business, kind of B2B type sales of our solar panels, and I think we've been in contact with a few other companies about their needs, and we've ran a couple models to kind of show them like, oh, if you added our panel on your vehicle, it would provide this many miles or it would provide this much range, things like that. So that's always on the top of our heads, and we've explored that.
I think, one of the biggest things like we could do is land a deal with Amazon or Uber Eats or some type of delivery service, and they're using Aptera vehicles as their company fleet, and saving a lot of money, helping the planet, using energy responsibly along the way, and kind of building like that brand for themselves, and partnering with Aptera is something like we see happening in the future. Don't know what companies will decide to embark on that journey with us just yet, but
I know at the last update with Chris and Steve, they were talking about expanding the model lineup eventually, more so after the 2-person transport, 2 delivery type models. So would that just be, do you have any idea, just a scaled up version of this car, or would it be a totally different kind of mock-up or different design with additional doors or different additional,
Yeah, I don't know that I have much information on the other models.
There are renders of a lot of different designs that include a lot of the things you just without going into too much detail, like we're exploring, four-wheelers and maybe like longer vehicles or something that resembles more of what you see, like a big truck that can carry a lot, but is efficient and lightweight. So yeah,
That's the main thing, though, is we want to
Yeah.
you want to stay with the ethos of Aptera and being like efficient, right? So like these giant pickup trucks and SUVs that are coming out really aren't. They don't fit in with
I know,
Aptera that
and
much.
that's,
like,
not to interrupt, but that's kind of been what my main grumbling with like the market with EV technology now is that we're getting these cars with 120 kilowatt hours of battery, and it like the carbon impact of manufacturing vehicles of that size, of that mass, is really not environmentally sustainable.
right.
And I think it kind of goes to this criticism of EVs. Well, it's like, well, maybe it's not as efficient as we think it will be. But in general, I think that this type of model, where you're really from the ground up focusing on efficiency first and foremost, I mean, that's obviously the best. I mean, there's like nothing like it. I mean, it's plus, I think aesthetically, it's such a cool looking car.
Yeah.
I mean, just the publicity and the green bona fides that you would get from driving around in a thing like this, I think is like, people are going to be turning heads. I mean, it looks like a sports car, looks like a Batmobile.
Yeah.
And it's just such an exciting vehicle.
There's nothing like this, honestly. I can't wait for mine. I really can't. But I love what you said about how it does like come from nature, and like it's all about efficiency. Like, how do you get some things, like this vehicle's drag down to 0, and like this is what it ends up looking like a dolphin, or like something that's like gliding through the water, and it's crazy that people are like, what is this, a spaceship? And like, we didn't design it to look this way. We designed it for efficiency, and it ended up looking this way. And it's honestly like, it's this beautiful present with a bow wrapped up and sparkles. Like, I just get goosebumps every time I remember like what I was first told, and like how like we're adding solar to it, and we can do all these things that no one's done before, and it also looks like a Batmobile. I'm like, okay, this is just
It's just a win-win.
okay. Can I sell this?
Because I think when you look at cars that are universally appraised for their aesthetics are these hyper, sleek sports cars, like these Italian supercars. And I know this is made in, the facilities, like CPC that was manufacturing a lot of the same parts and materials, but it's just, it makes sense that there's that synergy there and there's that overlap. And I think
definitely.
that the final form of the vehicle just reflects that, commitment to efficiency and, what is the drag coefficient of the car as it stands right now? Do you guys know?
I thought it was 0.13.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Could be better. We're actually
We're
doing
getting it tested.
a
Yeah.
wind tunnel test today.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, private information, but by the time I think you release this, it won't be.
All right, I will untether you. Cam. Thank you.
That was fun.
Yeah, no, thanks. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So Audra, tell us more about the accelerator program and the general update on where funding stands with Aptera today.
Yeah, so with the accelerator program, we've been able to raise a little over $14 million now, which began post January 27th of this year. So with that money, we have started kicking off some of our suppliers here, and we can't go into all the details of exactly what we're testing, but we will be sharing that with you in the next couple of months. There are things other than just the production tooling that's being started, and our engineers are actually making like great advancements on their projects, where as before we were making sure we had that green runway ahead so that Aptera, the dream of Aptera, was definitely coming a reality. Now, more than ever before, are we able to actually make great headway, and suppliers are approaching us that, I think we didn't think we would work with in the past, and with deals that are good for Aptera and will allow us to purchase high volume of parts for lower cost. And with that money, in addition to just testing, we are also able to put together our production facility here. So we'll have builds coming in soon, like different benches that will be starting for like our 8 to 10 production builds in the next few months. And that's super exciting because we're ready to start building. It's just about having enough capital to ensure that like we're able to make this a reality. Hopefully by we're targeting in mid 2024, but it is a bit of a moving target. But with the accelerator funds and the California Energy Commission grant of $22 million, we're actually able to spend, that's almost like 40 million, which will allow us to get to close to low volume production. And then once right now we're also talking to a lot of different institutional investors, sovereign funds. We have visitors all the time from people that are looking at our product, what we're doing, our team, our mission, the amazing community that's powering us and making it all happen. And it's kind of, a lot of people ask us, like, how have you not got the money yet? This is a no-brainer. I think there's definitely some risk involved with the state of the economy right now, and that's part of it. But because we have such a strong product and such a strong community, we truly believe it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we're very optimistic it will be within the next few months that you'll start seeing a lot happening at Aptera, and production to begin next year. So we're excited. Thank you.